Okay, so now let's look at the example problem together. It's the one I told you not to pick as the seminar topic, and this is why. So it starts out with some joke story about compilers being very different from humans, and the first paragraph doesn't really contain any useful information. Then is where the real problem specification starts. So it says there are different kind of pairs of characters, these braces, that are used as control symbols in the source code to define blocks, and they say these can be nested, but they're also string literals. Quotation marks cancel out the control characters, which means that after the first quotation mark, no character is interpreted as a control character until the next quotation mark. Write a source code check that tests if all string literals in the control blocks are valid and closed. So read it more carefully on your own. Maybe you've been doing that while I've been talking over you. But that's the first part of the problem statement. Then you get input specifications and output specifications. Let's look at those. So it exactly specifies what the input is supposed to be. So it consists of one or more lines separated by a new line character, made up of white space, numbers, alphanumeric characters, and all other printable ASCII characters. More precisely, the set of allowed of characters is such and so. Another important thing that we see here is the total number of characters in the input is at most a megabyte. So that's a lot of characters. We're going to need an efficient algorithm here. Then we look at what is the output supposed to be. We output correct if all control blocks and strings are valid and closed, or incorrect if not. So don't put any debug information or whatever in your output. During debugging, maybe that's useful, but don't forget to take it out, because you need to give the exact output that they tell you to. So then we get some sample input. Let's read it. You really want to study and understand these example inputs, because usually they don't give you all the corner cases, but they'll give you a little bit of a look at what your program is supposed to do. So the first one is a correct instance. So it has a curly open, which is, let's look for it, closed over here. It has a square bracket thing. It has a angle bracket thing. And here is another angle bracket, but it is inside quotes. So that's fine. I hope you all agree that this is indeed a correct input. But here's another thing I want you to notice. This curly is closed in a different line. So apparently these blocks can go over multiple lines. Let's look at the second example input. It is incorrect. What's the difference? It looks like the angle bracket over here isn't closed. It's closed over here, but that's in a string, so it doesn't count. So this is actually something that will already tell you if you're handling strings correctly, or at least it would catch some bugs with your string handling. So now let's get programming. Wait, actually, let's not. We have to think about what we are going to do now. So the way to do this is to go through the string character by character and keep a stack of what kind of braces we are in, and keeping track of if we're inside a string, because then we don't care about the braces. Let's make some space and run through the example. We have this stack and we're going through the strings. So we have a curly open, and then we have a square open, and then we have an angle open, and then we get to the quote and we stop interpreting special characters. So we don't interpret this one, and then we get to this angle close, which matches the top of our stack. So that goes off of our stack. Then we get the square close, which matches, take it off the stack. Curly, which matches. Then we have parents open, and we have parents close, which matches. Now we're at the end of the string, and we didn't underflow the stack, and every time we saw a character, it was indeed the opposite of what was on top of the stack. Let's look at the instance that was supposed to be incorrect. We start again with a curly open, square open, angle open. This is a string, so we don't see this one. End of string, then we see this guy, and it's a square bracket, but we were expecting an angular bracket, so this is a no instance, and we can say incorrect immediately. So let's get coding. I'll do this one in C++, but Java or Python are also allowed. I haven't actually prepared this, so let's see how it goes. Programming competition code is about being easy to write and being quick to write. It's not about being nice. So let's import some things. We need to do input output. We're probably going to use a stack. And here's the first ugly thing. We're just going to say use namespace standard. We have a main method. C++ is actually a very modern language. You can even put URLs in the source code. I forgot about string. So let's have our string line while not. Standard in is at end of file. So this is how your program gets the input. It gets it from standard in and you have to write to standard out. Let's get the line and go through it. As a test, let's just output each of these characters individually and see if the input actually comes out like we want. I've already made an example input file. It says hello world. And if we now pipe this through our program, then it also says hello world. So far, so good. My camera just ran out of battery, but I think we'll survive without it. We should know if we are in a string. And then we should probably do something different depending on whether we are in a string or not. And if we're in a string, it's actually pretty easy because then if the character is end quote, then we are no longer in the string, and otherwise we just ignore this character. And if at the end of the file, if we're still in a string, then we need to output incorrect. There are different ways to be incorrect, so maybe we'll have to refactor this afterwards. Okay, so this bool needs to be out here. And that's step one. If we are not inside a string, we need to start looking at this character. If we get an opening brace, then we should put it on the stack. So if C equals curly or C equals block, angled, parents open, then we push it onto the stack. Else, if it is one of the closing characters, we need to figure out if the correct thing is on the top of the stack. If the stack is empty, then that's bad. We immediately say incorrect, and we can immediately return out of the entire program. Again, this is bad form, but we don't care that this is bad form. This is just a tiny program. So now we have that the stack is not empty, and we have an actual... Oh, I didn't change it. I need these to be the corresponding closing characters. It's the danger of copy-paste. But I caught it. So the stack is not empty. And now we need that the corresponding opening character is on the stack. So let's do that now. I could make a function out of this, but then I need to do that. Let's just hack it together here. So what I expect is the following. If there we go. Now we know what to expect. If it matches, then that's good and we pop it. Otherwise, we are in the incorrect case. Unless I'm forgetting anything, this might actually be the entire program. Let's output correct at the end. And aha, in string, we still need to handle that. So if it's not an opening character and it's not a closing character, let's have a final check. Else if C equals double quote, then in string equals true. And this is the case because we already know that we were not yet in a string. Okay, let's see, let's compile this. Oh no, we failed. Main must return a value. Well, okay, sure. Return 0. Oh, it's actually the other returns. Compile. Yes, we have success. So let's try it. Is hello world correct? Yes, it is. Let's see how we do on the sample inputs from the problem description. So this was the first one, and now, fingers crossed, it says the first one, which was supposed to be correct, is incorrect. So what's wrong? Let's get ourselves some debug information. This is dangerous. We need to take this out again before we submit. Okay, it said incorrect non-matching. Let's have a look at that. Let's fire up the debugger. I've configured it to automatically take this sample input and pipe it into my program. Run to line, and what do we see? We see that we have expected an open angle bracket, but we see a close angle bracket. So what's actually on our stack? The opening things are on the stack. Oh, this is just silly. I should check for expected. I'm sorry, y'all have been screaming at the video for minutes now. I'll fix it. Okay, so this should have been expected. Here we go. Correct. Okay. So what's happening with the second one? It says incorrect non-matching, which is also what we expect. And this also reminds us we have to change back our output so that there's no debug stuff going on. At a competition, I would now start doing a bunch more tests, but I feel like living dangerously. Let's submit this. We go back to the browser in DOM Judge. We submit our source code. It has seen that this is C++. We submit it. It asks if we're sure. We are. Well, I'm not really sure it's correct, but we're sure we want to submit. And now it says pending. This page should self-reload at some point, but if you're impatient, you can also reload on your own. And we got wrong answer. This is one of the results, unfortunately, that you can get. You can now click on it, and now we really don't get a lot of information. And that's by design. The test inputs are secret, and you don't know them, and you don't really get to know what went wrong. They give you the compiler output. It doesn't like my YouTube link, but that's a warning, and it doesn't like that expected may be uninitialized, but it wouldn't be, I don't think. Compilation was successful, and then there are the runs for the provided sample data, but for this problem, the jury hasn't provided sample data. Well, I'm the jury in this case, so that's really my own fault, but there you have it. It seems somehow that I didn't save when I took out the debug messages. That's what I get for not being careful, I suppose, but let's submit it again, this time for real. Yes, we want to make the submission. It's pending, and let's reload. Still pending, and okay. That's also wrong, and also a silly bug that you all have been screaming at your screens about. This is what I get for not actually doing tests and not seeing what happens. This demonstrates why you want to be much more careful at an actual competition, but I'll start being careful if this one also goes wrong. Okay, that one was correct. And now we are green on problem X. We have a score of 1 point for one problem solved correctly, and we have this tiebreaker score that's completely ridiculous because this is not a 5-hour competition and this has been running for a while. At a competition, you would never resubmit anything that was already correct. But to demonstrate some other results that you can get from the server, let's do some silly things. This one appropriately exceeds the time limit. They do not tell you your time, they do not tell you what the time limit is, just that you exceeded it. Let's do some other silly things. And this one gives us no output. Apparently we didn't crash, which surprises me a little bit. I was trying to demonstrate run error. Let's not joke around then and just throw. And that's better. Run error. Still, it doesn't tell you what happened, but this is some kind of runtime error. If you program in Java, it's probably an exception going on somewhere. I'll demonstrate one more message that you can get, which, unsurprisingly, gives compiler error, and here you actually get the output. So in this case, you get some information that you can actually use to see what's going on. So that's the first problem down. Try not to make the same silly mistakes that I just did. The only real silly mistake was submitting it before I was sure enough about the program. Like, silly programming mistakes happen all the time, you just need to catch them. Now, you should also try to solve this problem and submit it to the DOM Judge server. Try not to steal my code, try to do it on your own. We don't care if it takes you multiple tries or if you play around or whatever, but it's a good experience to just have submitted a problem once and to have actually written all of the code around it. So maybe try it in Java or Python. Like I said, I would like everybody to make their own account, and then I can group those accounts into teams. Then for the seminar problems, it's fine if one person per team solves the problem in the system. But for this first week, I would like everybody to actually do this problem on their own. And that's it for the video. No, wait, the judging server is sometimes a little bit flaky. So if you try to submit something and it's stuck on pending, then send me a message on Discord and I'll see what's wrong. That was the video. No, that wasn't the video. We're not on Discord, we're on Slack, but you know what I mean.